Welcome back to the Wise Divine Women podcast, where we help you go from fed up to faith-fueled, helping you to become the wise divine women that you've been called to be. Today, I have Dr. Sofia Din, author of Do We Really Need to Botox and longevity specialist. And we were just getting so in depth behind the scenes. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We need to press record. And I am so looking forward to this conversation because to us in this pause, as Dr. Sofia had said, we are really redefining ourselves and understanding ourselves, and beauty plays a role with that as our hormones change. And we do want to live a longer, fuller, more vitality life. Welcome to the show, Sofia.
Thank you, Dana. I
Thank
really am
you.
so honored.
Yeah. So what started you on this journey? You've had now a long change, long transition into what you've become now. How did that all transpire?
Life is best analyzed in hindsight. So I feel that now, after being in healthcare and in the realm of medicine, on both sides of the planet. So I did bachelor's in medicine and surgery in my country of origin, which was Pakistan, which is a very British kind of a system. And we learn, you have to write an essay on everything, and you have to really understand your people and whatever there's ailing them. But then came to United States. I got married and came to United States, and I did the licensing exams to get into medicine in United States. And then I did my residency. So I did medicine all over again. And in the United States, it's a very different sort of medicine. It's like more, and I'm very honored to be able to do this, but it was fascinating. But it's a very sickness management kind of a system. So basically, when people get sick, then there are tons of different treatments that we can offer and different tests to figure out what part of you is failing. However, throughout the 20 years that I have worked in United States, I never really saw anything that would take care of menopause, perimenopause, or andropause, which is a very important phase in the life of any human. And especially in your 30s and in your 40s, you go through these periods that will shake your system. And as you go deeper into it, if it is not appropriately tackled, you lose connections with peak versions of yourself that manifest around your 30s. And sometimes for women, they're peaking in their 40s. And to lose that connection with versions of yourself is a very painful thing for any human, especially if it is a peak version, because you know what you're capable of. You know what you are supposed to do, what you can do. And then that's where I turned my attention I'm actually a retired geriatrician who took care of people in assisted care and nursing facilities. And it was very painful for me to watch that I cannot really do anything substantial for them to help them stop their problems. It was just like we're throwing band-aids on problems that are just too big. So that brought me onto this system that I learned. It was a newly developed, so around 12 years ago when I started this journey onto wellness, because I realized that there is a concurrent system that's available in the United States. And it was like a newly developing field back then, where people were no longer waiting for the sickness management system to help them. They were seeking this thing. So there was this need of helping healthy, able, well people stay there. So I shifted my attention from completely geriatric population to people who had not become geriatric yet, and to help them protect themselves to the best of the current available elements. And as the years went by, I saw that newer elements were available. The universe or God, whatever you believe in, it becomes manifest at a certain point in time. And that is what happened to me. And I was, allowed access to, these miraculous elements that helped women a lot.
Right, right. Right. And so it is about that. I mean, our passion goes to helping people. And then you realize, okay, we need to step back and start addressing people at an earlier date. Same as perimenopausal health. Really, it needs to be taught in the 20s. Like it you need to prepare the body for fertility, and then you need to prepare the body for the transition. And if it's not stable, even at an earlier age, then it's not pretty. So when it comes
Beauty,
to
you mentioned.
understanding, know, yeah.
One of the things that you were mentioning was the beauty of the like people losing connection with their beauty. And in the realm of anti-aging, we tell everybody that the only person who can transfer beauty to you is your mother. Beauty is a genetic code. It is something that is passed down to you by whatever your DNA code is. And what we can do is to help you preserve it. Everybody finds that period of time when they're peaking. However, if you are conventionally beautiful, or you feel that, yes, you have to, well, part of life is also accepting yourself, acceptance of yourself, and finding yourself beautiful. However, beauty is a genetic code. I tell people to not try to find beauty and nobody should tell you that, here, come here, I will give you beauty. No, you were given it by God. It is in your DNA. We can only, once you manifest it, we can help you protect it and keep it a little while longer, because you are that flower. We're
Mhm.
organic beings. We are constantly in the realm of decay. So you gotta renew yourself continuously. So that's the concept of anti-aging. That's the concept of even anti-aging to a point where you find yourself acceptable and beautiful, and you should accept yourself anyway, wherever you are, wherever you meet
Right.
yourself. And throughout time, one of the things that I learn, and my clients are fabulous, but they usually, when they come to me, they basically are so much in acceptance of themselves, and they're like, oh, I want to stay here a little while longer. And that is the element that I constantly talk about. How young are you, Dana,
Mhm, mhm.
if you don't ask?
What I'm 56. Yeah, I'll be
Nice.
57 soon. And, yes, I have some great cheekbones. And,
Beautiful. You
my
look amazing.
mother yeah, my mother has not many wrinkles, so I'm very blessed in that aspect. But, these things change. And so what are some things that you recommend that we can start doing from the inside out to help support ourselves?
One of the things that you're doing is already here. So you're learning what this pause is and what you are facing. So one of the things that you're already doing is perfect, that you're making yourself aware that you're in a phase of life, there is things that are happening. So the thing that I want women to kind of, through your platform, understand is that when we talk about menopause or perimenopause, it is an all system pause. It is not just one system. Even though for women, one of the systems, when it shuts down, which is your ovaries, and your periods stop coming, it is very apparent that, okay, this system has shut down now. However, when we face that pause, that system impacts every other system. Those hormones impact every other system. And your brain is pausing, your skin is pausing, your gut biome is pausing. It's no longer absorbing all the nutrients that you were very easily able to leach out of your food and environment. So one of the things that I like to do is to just make women aware of, like, connect the dots of their own system, so that that when this check engine light is on, just consider yourself like that vessel that is holding your consciousness together through time, gravity, and hormonal imbalances. And then what are the symptoms? Learn to connect it, because right now what's happening is that when women have, like, these severe muscles and body aches and pains and sleepless nights and stuff, they're not sure what's going on, and they go to a neurologist, somebody's going to send them to some other doctor, and somebody will send them to a rheumatologist, and basically they will all do 1 billion different tests, and then they will come back with some kind of a pain reducing medication or some kind of an antidepressant, because your brain is also pausing. So your brain is no longer happy. It's not the lack of estrogen, now we know it causes death of your brain cells. So your brain, the fog that is happening, it's like there's chaos going on inside, which nobody had connected for us. The studies that were done on hormonal replacement treatments was very faulty, and it was left a very long gap where nobody studied women for like a decade, which is like, it's one of the, when we look back onto this era, one of the things that we'll be like, oh, the medical community dropped this ball. It was the ball on women. We dropped the ball on menopause. But I'm glad that we're picking it back up and examining it, and we're now guiding women correctly. And there's a lot more new schooling that will come about as a result of this. Now, as we are going through the figuring out what are the elements that you will need to, bring yourself back in time, back with that version, or stay connected with your current version, you will need to find providers around your place to be able to go and get blood work, to get, these treatments. And these are basically anti-aging treatments. So I don't know what anti-aging treatments you've been exposed to, but we do something called infusions for women, which is, and men. And these are like intravenous supplements that we give, and many times, and these are natural elements, this is not like any medication or such. That is something that's very popular. Women find it very helpful for aches, pains, energy imbalance and stuff. That is one thing. And then some anti-aging medications that I don't know if you've ever utilized, but there are anti-aging medications, especially for skin. You mentioned my book. I wrote this book on Botox, which is it is one of the world's fastest acting anti-aging medication. However, the application of it, a lot of doctors don't know how to apply it. So you have to go to a very super skilled specialist or somebody who doesn't really know it that well. So you gotta find people who know how to do it, who have experience of how much to do, because I see it sometimes, listen, too much of everything is not that great. So anything that you overdose on is going to cause impact. So these are medications. So, just like sickness management system has its own medications, the health and wellness management system has its own medications, and they are more preventative. But unfortunately, as far as the cost of coverage is concerned, none of these medications are considered vital for your life, and they are basically out of pocket expenses. So that makes it very important for people to know the price of these things also. So there's a cost that is there's a developing cost, and now in that cost of maintenance you'll have to add hormonal treatments too. Are you on any hormones? Now I
Right.
will ask you these questions.
I am not yet. My last hormone test, and that's it. You've got to be able to, ask the questions and talk about these things with your doctors, understand your hormones. And I really am just rebuilding foundation, gut health, which all play a role in longevity. And so, no, not any hormones at this time, because my hormones were fine. They were optimal still. Thank God. And, but moving into IV therapy or IV infusions, what should we be looking for? Like, those are things that are on my radar. We are fortunate enough in my hometown to have new clinics come up now that have IV infusions. So what should we be looking for?
Where do you live? Which is your town?
I'm in Sudbury, Canada. So I'm in Canada.
Nice, nice. So
Mhm.
there is a lot of data in medicine all over the planet where we basically tell you that, when you're very sick, when you go to a ER or when you go to urgent care, the first thing they do is they put the infusion on you, right? They get your access and they have this bag of fluid that goes through you. And if they want to give you any medication or something like that, they would like to put it in there because they know the availability will be 100% to your system. So that if that bag is just empty bag, which is usually a 0.9% normal saline kind of a bag, or sometimes they have a different kinds of fluid that is there depending on what they're trying to clear out from your system or hydrate into your system. So what they do is that it changes the balance, the chemical balance, because remember, you're nothing but a chemical reaction occurring under your skin. So that chemical reaction, when you are deathly ill or in the grips of some deathly illness, the insurance company gives it into you. However, our concept is, and listen, that thing is very useful for, like, even at its very basic form with very little elements in it, it's very good. If it is the correct fluid for you, it's very useful for you. And it saves people's lives all the time in the hospital. We know that. So what I say, and what is now what we're in the wellness industry, what we are doing is that doctors like myself are training in creating these concoctions which will benefit you even more than that bag of plain fluid that they give you. So the one that I created for my followers and people who come and see me is like my own proprietary blend, which has like a lot of elements in it. However, there are blends all over. The only thing I suggest to people is that make sure that you have a doctor on staff wherever you go. There should be a medical doctor. Because remember, before you go to a longevity person, please don't go somewhere who has not seen and trained in the dark side of human problems. If you do not know how to manage the issues that can arise with anything, even if you sit in a car, and go drive from point A to point B, you can incur issues. However, you still go get in and, make sure that you are with a licensed person, or you have the license to drive and you follow the rules. So being, when you get this oil change when you're very sick, in the ER, there is a doctor, there are nurses, they put it on for you. So when you go for a wellness thing, it should be a doctor, it may be a nurse, but they are all trained, they should be licensed, it should be the elements they're placing in you should be, it should be from regulated places. You cannot, because there have been instances in this industry where people have gone to people who were not trained and they ended up getting some stuff put in their vein that should not be in their vein. So somebody who is trained in organic chemistry, who has trained in, who learned this biochemistry, what human body needs at a certain point in life, they will be the ones who can assist you in making. So if you have somebody, that is an oil change that you need on a regular routine basis, and you will know if it helps you. It's like, it will help. It does help. However, when you put correct things in it and that formula, so usually we put high doses of vitamin C. There is something called glutathione, which is very, very important for your brain health. So those things are, I tell ladies that, just get as many elements as you can, procure, find a person who is trained in this, and usually there are many. I'm sure in Canada there are, because this thing that infusions is like very basic. I've been doing in my office like almost a decade now.
Yeah, the glutathione is very important for that fully, detoxification of the body, liver support, so many good things with glutathione. Vitamin
Yeah.
C, again, very anti-inflammatory, very
Yeah.
corrective for the body, and
Yes.
I love that. And how are
All
you
the B
finding, or do
vitamins.
you utilize all the B vitamins, right?
All
Those
the
are
B
so good
vitamins,
and
some
very
B1,
helpful.
thiamine. We do like a liver
Mhm.
cleanse. We can put in magnesium sulfate, which is very important for not just your muscle health, for your brain. And so there are like several elements now that people are adding into it. And they're putting peptides, different amino acids, which will help you repair the inside of your skin. Like to do a lot of infusions for hair, because one of the things that you lose during menopause is your hair, because your hair stops growing because it's not getting all the nutrients. So the hair part of the hair loss part of menopause, we stop it in its track so that you don't have to, like, one of the ways we tell women are like menopausing is because their hair doesn't grow. Even if they try to, it just doesn't grow. I mean, and then they get so scared that they're like, okay, at least I have hair, even if it doesn't grow. So that is one
Right.
thing that, can be helped if your infusion is correctly concocted.
Mm-hmm. And it's nice. It bypasses a lot of having the infusion bypasses a lot of the difficulties in the digestive system when you start taking those B vitamins or glutathione through supplementation, through capsule. Having the infusion activates the cellular activity almost instantly, correct?
Exactly. 100%. You're so smart. I mean, this means that you're somebody who knows this. And it always makes me so happy. So you already know. So the gut is like, your gut biome is your
Mm-hmm.
protector. It is supposed to protect you from whatever you place inside it. But before your any capsule or any supplement reaches the gut biome, it has to go through the acid wash of your stomach, so that stomach acid, which is supposed to disinfect all the food that you're placing in it, is going to not only basically make it very easy for the biome to digest. It grinds everything, but it also disinfects it. So that disinfection is basically an acid. It's a very potent acid. That's somebody who has had acidity knows how bad that acid is. It's very harsh, and that harsh acid, which is supposed to remove all the impurities from oral stuff, basically destroys the identifiers of water soluble vitamins. So most of the B vitamins or vitamin C or glutathione, they're denatured in your stomach. So by the time they get into the gut, in front of your gut biome is not letting something that it can't identify inside you. So it says, please go out. It's
Right.
just like you. If you go to your main door and you find somebody naked in tatters saying, let me in, you'll be like, no, please go. I don't know you. I don't recognize you. Because, the identifiers are important. And the gut biome is not going to, so by the time we're in our 50s, our gut biome is just as jaded as we are. We're not going to let any unidentified object inside our system like we did when we were young and naive. So what ends up happening is that gut biome lets all your water soluble vitamins go. And that is why when you bypass the gut biome and put it directly into your vein, not only everything gets furnished again, but also because these are water soluble vitamins, it is like a wash through. So it's like, oil change with groceries and everything at a cellular level. It becomes bioavailable. So bioavailability is is an important thing. So when we talk about, let's say, vitamin C in from your gut, even if you took, like, let's say 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C, your gut biome will only take out 500 milligrams, and the rest it will be like, no thanks, you know, because that's how it's designed. So when you're fighting the pause and you need to lift yourself out of the pause and your skin is failing and falling, you are going to need a lot more vitamin C. And during menopause, one of the things that is also pausing is your immune system. So your immune system, because that is pausing, you may need you're at risk of developing illnesses. You're at risk of not clearing out cancer cells that get produced in the system every single day. So you're arming your immune system with minerals like vitamin C or glutathione is like just having very good forces keep your system clean from inside, from within. So yes, supplementing it intravenously is like probably the way to go. And one of the things that we always used to say in the wellness industry, that all of these vitamins, all the impact of it is just placebo. It's all in your head. I don't mind placebo. I'll take the 25% of the placebo also, just by believing in it. However, by bypassing the gut and putting those supplements and these elements the right way into your system, introducing them in the right way, is is probably the reason that we always used to think that, oh, it's all in our head. Because, some people would find, because if you're
Hmm.
regularly taking something orally, so you may have more of it than somebody who's not. But, oral
Right.
supplements, the only oral supplements I recommend to people are fat soluble. So, like vitamin A, D, and K2. Sometimes I tell women to take magnesium daily. These infusions will probably, if they're given with appropriate amounts of supplements, they will probably carry you on for like at least a month or so at your age and stage in life. However, oral medications are something that, daily. I like people to take it daily. And those are also there, those are fat soluble. So fat soluble does not get denatured in your stomach acid because it is fat, it has a fat layering that protects it. So by the time it gets out of your system and gets into your gut biome, it releases, the fat because it's fat soluble. The gut biome can recognize it. So it takes it in.
Right. Yeah, it's important to understand the complexity of your vitamins and minerals in that so that, yes, you need to eat fat with that. And yes, you need to eat it with
Yes.
food and these things. And it's very important. Like infusions don't have to be something that's weekly. It's this added on top. And that's how beautiful that they are, that they last. They have a longevity to them. And same even with your B injections, your vitamin B injections are also a lot can be available through your doctor, and
Yeah.
you just have to ask. Like we just have to grow up and ask these really valuable questions to our practitioners or to our doctors so that you can then create a more stability and a more sustainable energy production when it comes to those simple things. So you had mentioned about peptides, and peptides seem to be a hot topic right now. But do you find that you're using things like NAD and the peptides more in creating those stacked anti-aging IV infusions?
So I do add NAD. So NAD is a booster. It's like, so when you do an oil change, NAD will be like the booster that you will give after the oil change. Sometimes I allow the boosters to be
Mm-hmm.
given to people because they're energy enhancers. However, they do have a dark side to them because a booster is not going to care if you have a cancer cell. It's going to boost that cell too. So I don't use NAD nonchalantly. And I know a lot of people just think that, just getting that boost with the NAD is safe. It may be safe right now for you, but as you go deeper into time, if you have cancer cells, which everybody gets, you are at risk of putting it too often. So I don't like to boost people all the time. However, NAD is a very important element that we do like to keep. The thing with the peptides is that we use peptides very regularly. One of the most favorite peptides of menopausal women is the GLP-1 or 2 agonists that are currently available. So these are peptides. They are not really medications. These are like messengers into your body to produce its own GLP. So they are, basically sugar neutralizers that allow your body to lift itself out of the metabolic sluggishness of menopause or andropause, which happens to women and men. It's basically our fat cells become abnormal because of constant sugar and exposure to all the preservatives that is in everything. So basically, that abnormal fat cells then not only become inflamed, but they also create particles of cholesterol that are super harmful and potentially very damaging to your circulatory system. The GLP-1 and 2 agonists have been game changers, in my opinion, for menopause management. And I
Mm-hmm.
am one of those activists who say GLP-1 agonists for all and bring the cost down for American and other subscribers. I mean, you're in Canada, and Canada has a lot better pricing than United States pricing. But, that I see a lot of opportunity there. And there are so many other peptides that are also, as we speak, are coming. I mean, I have like the newer peptides for skin, which is like to improve the texture and the elasticity and firmness of the skin. Your skin is always, every month you lay a new layer of skin right under, even in during menopause. It's just that because the system is pausing. It's not producing very good impactful cells. So if you change that system and give it good raw material, it's going to produce better skin for you. So there's a lot of opportunities. So you'll see in the next few years how quickly this thing is going to change. And with the advent of artificial superintelligence, we have an ally that can help us bring it all together, where the information did not flow that easily a decade ago, but now once I discover something, somebody in Canada and Australia are also right on it right away. So, information is it has become very swift, and I'm very excited about that
I love that.
too.
It is a very exciting time, absolutely. And I love how you pointed out that dark side to NAD, which I didn't realize. And I thank you for that, because like what all these influencers are talking about NAD, talking about these different peptides, it is to be aware and make sure that you're with someone who is educated and understands both the good side and the bad side of these infusions as well. So it does go back to understanding your foundation completely, where you are in your health journey, and building that foundation up, right? Starting with and understanding simple infusions like the vitamin C and the vitamin Bs and the glutathione, and making sure that you're good. Where then those boosters can make sense, because just throwing in boosters into the soup mix is going to throw the taste right off and be detrimental to your health. And I thank you for sharing that, Sophia. That's very
Yeah.
important to understand.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
you don't need to get boosted every time you get an infusion. So I say
right.
that, do a few cleanses, 2 thorough cleanses. You've done everything. And then if you're really feeling sluggish for some reason, yeah, go ahead, do a booster. However, don't just do it as a routine, and don't just like start shooting yourself. People mix the booster with the GLP, and they are just giving it to themselves. And now, it is like a boosting, like imagine if you were driving a car, you don't need a booster all the time. Just drive on your regular
Right.
suit. You'll reach when you reach. Go, okay.
Well,
It is like respecting your
regular oil
body.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah, regular oil
Yes.
changes,
Yeah.
alignment of the body,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Regular
Protein
massage,
intake,
eating good food,
protein,
protein super important. Yeah.
protein. Yes. Protein is so important. Women sometimes ignore the amount of protein they're supposed to take, and it hurts them during menopause and even andropause. And that is something that, other than, and especially if you're somebody on GLP-1 agonist, you're not feeling hunger. And then if you're simultaneously getting an infusion, you're also not depleted. However, protein, nobody's going to be able to give you protein unless you take it orally. So protein is something that you gotta, like, even if your appetite or craving centers has been turned off, you still need to take the protein and take the appropriate amount of hydration and the supplements that are supposed to be taken orally. And you do need still some salads and
Right.
roughage so that you can, you don't get constipated, because that's also another problem, because the gut's stuck. Because one thing that GLP-1 agonists do, that they make the GI tract, you're processing the food very slow. That's why you get like this sense of fullness with it, and people are not like all the time eating because they just get full. So that sluggishness in the gut can sometimes result in, if you're not pairing it with enough water and fiber, what ends up happening is that you get constipated. So that is, just something to understand your system. So I do think that eventually just chat GPT or artificial intelligence will become the concierge of every human and will guide them much better, because what ends up happening is that you'll still need a physical provider. But the thing is that, your physical provider cannot speak with every person that they'll meet. So if they have to meet like 30 people, it's very hard to make every person understand all the inner mechanics of your system. So that's where the concierge in the form of artificial superintelligence will do a PhD in you and will tell you that, hey, I think you should get this, 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 this. Or should I get booster? What are the side effects?
Right.
Ask it. And then go and find a provider and ask it, do we have a provider where I can find something like this, which is like a doctor? It will tell you.
Mhm.
It will tell you, like the system will tell you that yes, there is this doctor is board certified, this doctor is whatever, this doctor has, like, I can see has been doing it for 10 years and stuff. So you have an ally in your pocket now. And now you need to find a physical ally outside in your community that is going to align with your own, the pocket ally. That's it.
Very true. Very true. Well said. In your book, what is the biggest takeaway that women can have when they read your book and they understand aging and longevity for themselves?
So that book is basically just my attempt to start the conversation on longevity and anti-aging and exiting, not just depending upon the sickness management system of health insurance to take care of you, take care of your health, because your health insurance is like your car insurance. It only gets activated when you have an accident or a sickness. So I don't want people to wait until they're sick, until they have manifested 5 chronic issues to do something about it. I feel that one of the takeaways is to actively seek alternatives so that you don't arrive to that point where the cookie is crumbling, because there are millions of ways that the cookie can crumble, but there are a few very short, simple ways that you can keep it all together for a very, very long time. And that's what the book is about. And actually, my new book is also about that. My next book is called Is Anti-Aging Possible? And I've laid down the things that we now know that will allow us to anti-age for at least a few decades. We have not been able to turn off the switch of, ejecting ourselves from the matrix yet. However, we have extended the health span in your lifespan, because the lifespan we have already extended. We are living, women and men are living way more than their ancestors used to just 2 centuries ago. But we have not extended the health span in it. We just are like, sitting ducks waiting for a disease to occur and then stopping it and trying to stop it. But, it catches us from one end or the other end, or if not this year, next year. So what we want to do is to, fortify our health for as long as possible, so that your consciousness, which will actually become the best when you're 80. The people who are 80, their consciousness is the ripest. It is the best, because their experience is so rich. So when you are at that point, you do want that your system is still capable of acting on whatever is the next thing that you need to be doing. That's, and your all of your systems are in action. That is my thing. Instead of just lingering in some nursing home, waiting to die, which I don't think is the most, optimal way of carrying on your life.
No, that's so good. Yeah. And when is your next book coming out?
So I'm hoping that it's going to be this year, and fingers crossed. It is kind of complete, and I'm working on it. I've been working on it. So my first book was in 19, and because during the pandemic and after coming out of it, I kept writing my second part, and then so I'm very hopeful that this year it will get published. I used to have like a podcast which was called Anti-Aging with Dr. Giovanni. Giovanni is my office name. And what I ended up happening is that I rebranded that podcast as Bathroom Diaries. So one of the things that I do also is I'm the host of this podcast called Bathroom Diaries, where I put a lot of this information for people out. So if anybody is interested in this thing, this is what I talk about all the time. Menopause, unpause your
Mm.
pause. That's my, main concept.
I love it. I love it. And it's ever changing. And the research is now, getting caught up now that we've taken off the black box off of estrogen.
Yes.
Things are going to start to really explode in the research for women and anti-aging and longevity and brain health. I think is going to be one of those up and coming game changers. Never mind like managing our menopausal symptoms, which now that the research is coming out, it seems a little bit more manageable and understandable. And now it's going to be, okay, how are we going to keep our eyesight better? And how are we going to keep our brain fresh? And then where all of those infusions and peptides and all the research there is going to make a really great, because we want to be 80 and our body will be great, but is our mind going to be there? So it's really all of this,
Yeah.
snowball effect of the great
Yeah.
things that are going to happen in the next 5-10 years.
You're 100% correct, because that's what we are. We are a mind body complex. So your body is made for your brain, and the complex should stay together and in functioning order for as long as possible. And that's the concept of unpausing it from its pauses. And what's causing the pause is different in every decade. So as you go deeper into time, your problems will not become simpler, they will become more complex. However, because you will be aware, and hopefully now we have better access to important things, and I think their solutions are improving also because of this.
So before we finish, I always ask, what is a word of wisdom that you've always held true to or that you share often?
So one thing that I like to say to my followers and myself and people I love is to be always be true to your own self, and be accept yourself, accept yourself completely alongside with all your flaws, because you gotta self acceptance is such an important step before you try to repair anything. So
Wonderful.
that is
I
my
love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much, Dr. Sophia. We're going to put where everyone can find you, your Bathroom Chronicles podcast, and where you can find the clinic and all that great information. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today, Dr. Sophia.
You're most welcome. I am located in New York. If you ever come here, please come and visit. And yes, my podcast is called Bathroom Diaries. And thank you for having me on. I will also, once you share this link with me, I will also put it on my platform for you. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast today. If you want to learn more about Dr. Sophia, it'll all be in the show notes. If you're in the New York region, get in there, get your IVs, get your boosters, understand you in your longevity journey. And I hope you have an amazing day today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye bye.